And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I am Michael DeLon, and today I am talking with Tudor. He is the CEO of Tanda Digital. And well, first of all, Tudor, thank you for being my guest today.
My pleasure, Michael. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you are welcome. It is going to be a great conversation. So Tudor and his company, Tanda Digital, they serve primarily digital agencies, and they help those agencies build a consistent and predictable pipeline of top tier clients. Now, as we get ready to dive in this, I got one thing to say. If you're a business owner out there and you're not a digital agency, tune in, because I know what Tudor is going to share has some applicability and some points that you can take away from this podcast. So listen in, and it's going to be great. So tell me, Tudor, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
Good question, Michael. So, I mean, it's really, I started immediately after I finished college. And even before that, I used to work as a freelancer, and I worked primarily in the direct response. And after college, I moved into basically doing that full time. I already had some contacts, some companies that I was working with and that I had a relationship with. And at one point in my freelance journey as a direct response copywriter, is one of my clients. I had written the promotion for them, and they said that, look, our technical team is currently fully busy. It was a company from China. They're fully busy. We want you to take over and actually get everything done. You know, the website set up, the landing pages, the integrations, the emails, and get everything built for us, basically the entire sales funnel. And funnily enough, I was like, I don't do that. I just do the writing. Somebody else has to do the other stuff. And they were like, well, we just want you to find the people and manage them, right? We can pay for it. But we want you to actually be doing it because we don't have the capacity at the moment. So that was really how I started the agency, because I realized that I could pack like the direct response copywriting, as
Yes.
from your own business, the messaging. That's the most important part, the number one.
Can we go back and can you just say that again? Because I preach that to my audience so much. The message is number one priority, right?
Absolutely.
All right, you can keep
Absolutely,
going.
Michael. So that's the number one. So I realized that I had this essential skill that all the businesses needed pretty much, but it would be a lot more impactful if I could actually bring the rest of the team to actually get the projects going. Right. So that was the start of me building my first agency and really learning about the agency market. And I was hit by two things. A lot of the knowledge that was available out there about building an agency was either aimed at people who just wanted to be entrepreneurs and start a business, but they didn't have much expertise going in, or it was aimed at people who were just looking for a business opportunity that they could tap in. And once again, they were not people who had the skills to truly thrive in the industry. So most of the education was not high quality, and I had to learn most of what I did to actually grow and scale the company to a team of 18 people by myself. So one of the things that happened with my first agency is that I realized that being an introvert, I didn't like managing such large teams myself, and being involved in so many complex projects with very tight deadlines, big sales funnels, basically for companies at the time in finance and also nutrition. So what I did is I was like, there's this big gap in the market when it comes to agency owners and education, and I can tap into that. And initially I tapped into it as a consultant, and I would go and I would work with agencies one-on-one to actually build the same sort of processes I was using to help them scale. And later on, I transitioned. So this is basically at the start of last year, at the end of 2022. So the beginning of 2023, the end of 2022, that's when I moved from working one-on-one with agencies to taking this with somebody else who joined me as the other person who would work alongside with me, to take this with an agency model where we did the work of scaling them for them ourselves, right? So that was sort of the big shift that really propelled us to working with a lot more clients than we had worked with before. And I mean, we've added 100 plus clients basically in the past year. We've done really, really well. We grew very fast. We're 10 people now, growing for basically in 1 year from a team of just 2 people. So very, very fast growth. Our strategy, mainly because our experience is in B2B, our strategy mainly revolves around turning LinkedIn basically into a beacon that can help you attract and connect with your clients, build relationships with them and trust. I mean, with Paperback experts, right? Everything today in today's market, especially in competitive niches, is about gaining that dominant position as a thought leader. Because without that position, people just don't trust you enough. That's the biggest problem that I noticed running my own first agency.
Right.
It's like the buyer skepticism is very high at the moment in the agency market, largely because there's been a lot of unethical agencies, they just took big projects and then delivered substandard results to people. There's also a looming recession coming on in different parts of the world, a lot of clients slashing down budgets. So a lot of these reasons basically combine to make the market very, very competitive. There's also low barriers to entry, right? Anybody with a laptop can say, oh, I'm running an agency and try to get clients. So if you don't stand out, no matter what you say in your message, that's what I always tell people. Like, look, it doesn't matter what your message says, right? If people are not going to listen to it in the first place, then it's going to have no impact. Right? So you need to become that dominant authority first, build your personal brand, and like that, when you combine that inbound sort of work in marketing terms with an outbound system that gets people into a conversation with you, nurtures that conversation, and drives the deal forward, then you actually can have very strong results. And I mean, with us, we sort of gained at the peak 24 new clients that we added into the system in a single month, right?
Wow.
So for most agencies, unheard of results.
Wow. That's amazing. You've hit so much that are my hot buttons that I talk about a lot. Not only just message, but the positioning, because I've never wanted to be in the position where I'm chasing after clients or prospects. I want them to be chasing after me. I want them to see me as the guy who can help them. And then as you enter my world, we do educate and nurture and build trust and have conversations to get you to the point of, when I have my sales calls, they're not sales calls. You already know me, you like me, you trust me, you've been around me, and it makes that transition a lot easier because they know, my prospects know, I know that we're a good fit. We understand deliverables, all of that. And I love what you said earlier, that how easy it is to become an agency. They're all over the place, but most of them are like, well, I'm an agency, but I've got a staff of people, I just put them all together and they're all over the world. Versus a solid agency who can really help people. How do you stand out? How do you communicate that message? How do you build that trust? That's what you really help these agencies do. Is that fair?
Absolutely. So, I mean, to summarize it very briefly, we help them leverage and build a personal brand through LinkedIn that combines both an inbound component through their content, which positions them as authorities in their niche, and also through outbound. So that's initiating conversations with people, learning how to build trust, and then obviously transition those to where you can discuss business and create win-win deals based on providing some sort of value upfront. That's usually a key piece for us, because I always tell agency owners, look, you're going to do work for people, right? So no matter what work you're doing, whether you're running Google ads, whether it's Facebook ads, building websites, doesn't matter what it is, you already have in-house a process that you actually go through to deliver those results. So every agency, even though they're not aware of it, has their own intellectual property in the form of this process that they just need to learn to leverage in their communication and keep drumming on it over and over again to actually differentiate themselves. And I always tell them, in terms of providing value upfront, look at basically what the first step in your process is, and try to find a way to provide that in a way where it doesn't cost you a lot and you can provide it to people for free. Because doing that and providing some real value to them is the first step to actually initiating a relationship that transitions into a sale later down the line. So for example, for ourselves, what we do is that we've built this software where we plug in somebody's LinkedIn profile. And at the moment, we're just using this ourselves. But we plug in somebody's LinkedIn profile and it analyzes it basically to somebody goes through the profile. The way the software works is you answer 15 multiple questions. And then based on those answers about different sections of your profile, it creates a personalized report for that person's LinkedIn profile. And it tells them exactly what they need to do step by step to optimize it and get it in top shape to basically convey their positioning and their authority status. And that's the first step of our process, right? And we do it for free for people. And I advise exactly the same sort of strategy to other agencies because you have to do that work anyway. Look at it as a customer acquisition cost. If you can just minimize that cost as much as possible, then you're doing very, very well.
Right. And it gives that prospect a taste of who you are, that the value you bring to the table and the results that you're going to deliver, and it starts conversations. It gets, because if they're doing that, they're probably going to start sniffing around your website, your LinkedIn and all of that. But it gives you the opportunity to have those conversations and start elevating yourself from the mass of agencies to maybe 2 or 3 that they're looking at to the number 1 they're going to work with. Is that kind of how it works?
Absolutely. I mean, that's very well said. A difficulty is that a lot of agencies out there are just spamming people when they do outreach. And for us, outreach is within the context of the inbound work and the authority positioning that happens. So that's the key to it. Because I mean, a lot of agencies are trying to make up for deficiencies in their process through bigger volume, right? And they sort of ignore the problems with their process, and they just try to cover it up by just sending, let's say, 30,000 emails per month out and hoping that one of them lands as a client. The trouble with that approach is twofold. Number one, it has diminishing returns. So over time, as more and more people do it, there's software today like instantly.ai, which allows you to connect multiple accounts and, you can send tons of emails if you want. But as more people do this, it becomes less and less effective. You're struggling to actually stand out. And in addition, even the customers that you attract like this are usually going to be lower quality. That's the second thing. They're going to churn faster. They're going to treat you less nicely, and so on down the line, because it's sort of like that scam that goes around with the Nigerian prince, right? The people who respond are obviously people who are more gullible, more naive, right? And they're not going to make good customers at all, obviously extrapolating this to sending spammy messages as an agency. So it's not a sustainable way to grow. Whereas what we propose is basically something that's centered around building win-win partnerships with clients rather than just transactional relationships.
Well, and it's great because you're really going back to direct response marketing, right? And saying, here's something I want you to take action. Here's a free thing you can do that adds value. You never have to do any more business with me at all, but here's something that will help you. And it's the beginning of getting somebody to raise their hand and move toward you versus you chasing after them. It's a philosophy of how do you, I love you keep using positioning. How do you position yourself? I tell people all the time, you look at Tony Robbins or something, they're not chasing clients. He's positioned himself really well, right? That's what agencies need to do. And it's totally possible, but you need somebody like Tudor to be able to help you understand and unpack that message to go, you know what, you right now, Tudor, I use the analogy a lot of times of most agencies, most business owners show up looking like a coffee bean. And so if you pour coffee beans on the table, they all look the same and they smell the same. Most agencies look like and sound like every other agency. You need to stop that. You need to find the differentiating factor, that positioning, that authority position. That's what you help agencies begin to create. And that's that internal marketing, that inside marketing. Then you take it outside so that that message is more compelling to the right audience so that they start being engaged. Did I summarize that fair enough?
That's good, Michael. So for sure, I mean, I think that the big differentiating factor with us here is that behind just because there's a lot of people who claim they will generate leads or whatever for your
Right.
agency. But the big difference here is that we actually have a methodology and a process behind it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's two things that we basically talk about. We have one methodology which we call the NPOT methodology, and NPOT, it stands for niche, problem, offer, and transformation. And taken together, these four factors, they form the core of basically any agency's business model. You know, if you know what niche they're serving, what problems they're solving for that niche, what offer, how they're solving basically those problems, and what transformation they deliver, you know their business model.
Yeah.
And even when working, because obviously with 100+ customers, we've come across a lot of very different agencies. And even when you get, for example, two branding agencies marketing to tech startups, even within that sort of frame, they have very different business models. Because, for example, one of the agencies is targeted at bigger startups that are already Series A and above, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have sort of different needs. They already have a brand. They're more looking at a rebrand, or they're looking at launching an additional product, right? Whereas the other agency is looking at, let's say, C-level or even stealth startups that are in the early stages. They either didn't receive funding or maybe received some funding. So that alone, it changes their business model, because in this case, two of those components, the niche, the exact niche, and also the transformation they deliver and even the problems they solve are different.
Right.
Um, so that's the first thing that we do to help them position themselves through the NPOD methodology. And that's sort of the foundation. You know, I always tell people, if you don't have this right, then no marketing system can actually help you. And the second thing is what we call the N-cubed agency growth model. And that's what we actually implement for customers. Now, there's two ways to basically work with us by and large. One way is we give you access to all our know-how. And this is what we call the Agency Ascendancy Group membership. You get access to all our know-how in the form of a learning platform, 40+ hours of video training, a lot of templates and resources that are ready-made for you to actually apply our methodology. So that's the first way. And the second way is you actually get us to implement for you, right? And implementing for you sort of transitions into this N-cubed agency growth model that we've developed. And the three N's, they are network, they are nurture, and negotiate. So network, you need to consistently expand your network, right? And why do you need to do this? Because without consistently expanding your network, you're going to struggle to develop lead flow that's both consistent and top tier. We say top tier because when we expand your network on LinkedIn, we can control exactly who we attract or we connect you with. So we can connect you with the exact segment of the market that you want to reach out to. You know, for example, if you're marketing to startups, once again, and you're only interested in Series A and Series B startups, then we can only connect you with those. So it's very, very hyper targeting. So this network component, it solves those two problems, the consistency and the quality of the leads. The next factor, the nurture factor, it solves the problem basically of low barriers to entry and also lack of trust. And it solves that problem by what we talked about before, which is building authority for you, right? And we have two pillars for building authority. One is publishing content consistently on LinkedIn and basically building a personal brand. And the other one is basically running an event, and we ourselves, we have two events that people can attend to for free. Running an event that basically talks about your own intellectual property and how you can help your target audience solve their problems with using your own system. And these two things, they nurture people so that once you've started a conversation with them, you've expanded your network, you've started a conversation with them, they enter your world, they see what you're about, and they become ready to move to the next step, which is where the negotiate factor comes in. And the negotiate factor is about leading with value, which we already talked about. And then being able to close without selling, being able to close as an expert, by actually helping people better understand their problems and know exactly what they have to do to solve them. And we called it the N cubed agency growth model as opposed to 3N or whatever else, because these factors compound on top of each other, and adding all of them, it's like exponentially better.
Yeah.
And we market ourselves the same way. 90% of our own customers, they come from LinkedIn and from running the same place that we basically implement for people, or we teach them how to implement themselves.
Yeah.
So that's a short summary of it.
Wow, that's a great that's I love how you just unpack that, because and that you're doing it, because I've got marketing systems and things we teach our clients once we create their book, right? And they're the exact same systems we use in our business. I know it works. Let me give them to you. Let me guide you in getting them in there, because when you position yourself properly, when you communicate with the right audience, when you have the right offer, when you sell without selling because you've got so much trust, it makes life so much easier. Your conversions are better. Your value of your client is much higher, and the lifetime value is better because they're not churning, because and then
Absolutely.
it's so much better to approach business in this way. And it sounds like you've kind of cracked the code per se on LinkedIn, because you're targeting the right audience versus all the blasts that we get in LinkedIn and emails and all the blah that's out there because somebody just graduated from some course, and now I got inundated with, 13 messages that are exactly the same. It's like, no, stop that. Stop doing that. Reach out to Tudor and say, okay, can you help me? So if you're an agency out there of really any level, and you're struggling, you're not sure how to make it happen, because you don't want to just say, oh, I'm a digital agency. Yippee skippy. Do you know there are like 10,000 of those out there? How are you going to differentiate yourself? How are you going to communicate? And I love at the very beginning, we talked about direct response. Your message is clear. A lot of business owners just struggle with that. And you know as well as I do, that if you don't have a clear message, you can do all this stuff and it's just going to fall on deaf ears. That's why I love
Absolutely.
how you've put things together, that you're looking at them and you're understanding their message, their positioning, their authority, their trust, inviting them in, giving them free information, helping them take that first step easily, I call it removing the barriers to action. We all have barriers that keep us from taking that step. Lower that, make that next step really easy. And we could talk for a long time. One of the things that I tell people all the time is, usually when I go to a website, the first call to action right in the center of the page, Tudor, schedule a call with me now. Schedule a free consult. And I'm like, no, it's too early. I'm researching. I want a small step. And you said, yeah, give them this one small step, this LinkedIn profile or something. Make it easy for them to get involved, and then build that nurture, as you would say. I'd say build the relationship, nurture them, waiting for them to be ready to have that conversation. The conversation will come when it's done properly. And I love the structure that you've put around all of this, because you've eliminated a lot of the guesswork that most agency owners are just struggling with. And it's beautiful to hear about and to see and to go, wow. Listen to what he said, and every business owner that's listening to this can learn from everything you've just said. Whether they're an agency or not, there's a process, there's thinking, there's marketing. How do you put this all together? So may I just say kudos, Tudor. You've done a great job in laying this out.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. I'm serious. We could talk for a long time because I've got all kinds of ideas and things. But so agencies, they listen to my podcast. What's the next best step for them if they're sitting here going, we need to check this out because we don't have a consistent flow of predictable high tier prospects coming around? Where would they go? What's that next best step for them?
There's a couple of steps that they can look at, Michael, but before I get into that, I want to tap into something that you said that I think is very important. When we discussed about the direct response, I think that one big difference with agencies nowadays versus in the past, just because it's so crowded, is that you have to shift your thinking from capturing demand, which is sort of like, you know, you go to a stream and where do I put my bucket to catch the most water? Right? That's sort of what people are trying to do, just as you said, when they have the book a call with me button immediately on their website, and that's the only thing. It's like they're trying to capture demand, but the demand is not there because the demand that's already there is already taken by other providers. There's so many on the market. So what you actually need to learn to do, which we focus heavily on, is generating demand. And generating demand is about helping people, first of all, uncover problems that sometimes they were not even aware of, right? And when you illuminate basically a new problem for somebody, that's when they start realizing that, look, there's something that I need to look into here, you know, and then you continue that process by helping them understand the impact or the consequences of the said problem, right? And when they suddenly start understanding that, look, this is affecting my life, my business in this way or that way, then they actually become more open to actually learning more, and the desire for a solution breeds inside of them. And that's when having a call with them is more reasonable. And
Yeah.
that's basically the difference between generating demand, which is what agencies need nowadays, and capturing demand. Now, going back to what people or agencies can do if they want to learn more about our process or if they just want to implement it themselves, there's a couple of things. Number one, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I post there almost daily. There's a lot of content that I have about agencies, what they're doing nowadays in today's market to grow, what sort of results they're achieving, and what's working and what's not working. We also share our complete strategy for free on LinkedIn. We call this our LinkedIn playbook. And it's actually a Notion document that's perpetually kept updated. And you always have the link. You'll always be able to basically access the document that we continue to update as our strategy modifies. And our LinkedIn playbook contains basically our complete strategy for generating clients through LinkedIn. Moving on from there, if you've gone to that level and you've checked out our website, you've seen our case studies there, that's obviously also something that you can do, and you want to move to a next step, we have two workshops. We have what we call the Agency Ascendancy Workshop. And this is meant for agencies that lack a marketing strategy specifically, a higher level, bigger picture marketing strategy. And they want to work on their positioning. They want to use our NPOD methodology, which I spoke about, to do that. And they basically want to lay the foundations for growing to seven figures. And this is for them. And probably, Michael, you're going to add the links below so people can check them out. And the second workshop is the N-Cubed Agency Growth Model Workshop. And this is, again, our complete marketing system. We spoke about the three pillars together, the three N's. It's very detailed exactly how you can apply them for yourself. And these workshops, they're very long. They come with worksheets and exercises that you have to complete as you go through them. One of them, I think, is 3 hours, and the other one, 2.5 hours. So they're jam-packed with actual information. If you want to take a step even farther from that and accelerate the results that you get much faster, we have our Agency Ascendancy group where you have access to all our know-how, all our tools, all our processes for a small monthly fee. And you just have to apply them and do everything yourself. So this is sort of, if you're below at the 100K per year level, this is sort of the right option for you to get there. And even below that is obviously our done for you service, where we actually apply everything or just part of it for you. We have different options. So we have the core service, and then we have additional service options. So the service options are like, if you don't want to do that part of the process yourself, then we can do it for you. And obviously you would pay extra for that. So with our done for you service option, basically, if you're a B2B digital agency, so a digital agency that sells B2B, doesn't matter if you sell branding, PPC, web design, audio design, audio editing, video editing, anything of that sort. We've worked with agencies. You will find over 15 plus video case studies on our website, and for sure you're going to find the type of agency you run. And we can share more case studies, obviously, if you need with you. And that would be the right option for you, especially if you're already at the 100K plus per year level. And our biggest client, I think, is at the 4 million per year level. So we've worked with agencies across the spectrum.
That's awesome. All right, so we're going to grab some of those links, put them in the show notes, because obviously Tudor and his team have put together an incredible suite of services to help you get your agency branded, positioned well, messaged well, marketed well, so that you can gain more clients and grow long-term through a variety of channels and methods. I love the workshop. So a lot of that's going to be in the show notes. So go there, find out. We'll have his website there. We'll have his LinkedIn profile. Go to LinkedIn, connect with him, watch him, follow him, grab the information he shared there, that playbook. And Tudor, thank you, man. You've put together a really, really cool a suite here for agencies that makes running an agency just super sweet. It's a different suite, but it's really good because you give them the ability to do it themselves. You have the ability to connect with others. You have the ability to let you do it. And it doesn't matter. You've worked with small, large, and you provide great, great value. So thank you for leading the field. Thank you for doing what you teach others to do. And thank you for being my guest on Expert Speak today. This has been a tremendous conversation.
It's been my great pleasure, Michael. I loved our conversation, and I loved the insights that you also shared along the journey. I think that those are very valuable, not just to agencies, but to any other businesses as well.
Yeah, well, thank you. And everybody listening to this has gained a lot of insight and information, because your foundation is direct response marketing, and message is king, positioning authority. Tudor talks what I talk. We preach the same message, and I love what you put together. So thank you again,
Thank
Tudor.
you, Michael.
You're welcome. Check out all the information is in the show notes, and make sure you come back next week for another phenomenal interview on Experts Speak.